Simulation output log, ecosystem node 2DARD. Taxon, Ardipithecus ramidus. Status, simulated/extinct. Environment model, early Pliocene, Ethiopian forest mosaic, around 4.4 million years ago. Runtime, 53.2 hours, accelerated x75. Render fidelity, Tier 1, social cohesion and vocalization dynamics. Security level, internal only. Biome characteristics. Canopy type, mixed forest edge with intermittent glades and root-laced uplands. Climate profile, humid subtropical, high seasonal rainfall, stable thermal band. Terrain features, fallen log corridors, vine-heavy lowland forest, light dappled clearings. Flora, ancestral fig species, climbing vines, grass fern understory, early fruiting trees. Fauna co-simulation, small ruminants, Miocene monkeys, ancestral civets, predatory birds. Subject cohort 11 individuals. 4 adult females, 3 adult males, 2 juveniles, 2 infants. Simulated morphology. Height estimate, about 1.2 meters upright stance. Weight estimate, 40 to 50 kilograms. Cranial index, low prognathism, cranial base broadening evident, brain volume around 325 to 350 CEC. Locomotion profile, palmagrade quadrupedalism with facultative bipedality, grasping toe retained. Manual dexterity, simple grasp tools, no dedicated shaping behavior observed. Observed behaviors tagged. Conflict resolution, vocal harmonics during tension episodes, convergent group chorus replaces combative signaling. Food sharing, no evidence of hoarding or rank-based coercion, high-rate passive offering events during foraging. Territoriality, overlap zones observed between groups with no conflict events logged. Communication range, treetop to treetop calls synchronized with visual cues across 120 to 150 meters. Tool use, minimal. Occasional branch stripping and nut probing. No modification beyond surface contact. Flagged anomaly, frequency of communal chorus events exceeded projection baselines, tagged under Cooperative Signaling 2.0.
Supplemental Field Behavior Log. Subject, Ardipithecus ramidus. Researcher, Dr. Kelsey Mira, Paleocognition Fellow. Date, redacted. Notes. Chimpanzees show aggression with hierarchy. Bonobos with manipulation. Ardi does neither. Ardipithecus communities share food without coercion. Disputes are solved through group vocalizations, more chorus than contest. Their use of tools is sparse, but social structures are surprisingly resilient. They communicate across treetops, like how we would communicate across expansive grasslands and mountains. It's not what they do, but what they refuse to do. They're peaceful. Deliberately, perhaps. Maybe peace came before war. End of this. Their form of order emerges without visible dominance behavior, potentially an evolutionary scaffold for later moral systems. Compare with Sahelanthropus and Ardipithecus passive synchrony models.
Personal log. Author Rafi Hakim. Title, Singing Societies. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. I don't usually get sentimental about these old ghosts, but the RD sim got to me just like the proconsuls. They don't fight, or posture, or dominate. No social pecking order, no alpha theatrics, no quietly enforced monopolies like you see in chimps, or humans for that matter. Just chorus. Whenever tension flares up they sing, not solo displays either, it's collective. A whole body, whole group response, harmonic, not aggressive. Like the argument never even has a chance to become an argument, it just gets absorbed into a rhythm everyone already knows. Imagine living in a society where problems dissolve into music instead of policy memos. And yeah, it's primitive, but also it's elegant. No councils, no managers, no committees regulating behaviour, just a kind of intuitive coherence. Pre-coercive cohesion, Mira called it. I'd call it proof that we weren't always doomed to hierarchy. What bugs me is how far we've wandered from that. The deeper I dig into the bureaucratic layers surrounding this sim suite of version forks, legal archives, departmental silos, the more I feel like I'm watching humans evolve into something less cooperative. It's all control scaffolding now, like we don't trust ourselves to just be decent without 1,000 structural handrails. Maybe we don't. That's why I stick with the canopy. We're not trying to recreate order. We're trying to remember a version of society that didn't require domination to work. There's no need to codify everything, no need to own every insight like it's intellectual property. Just mutual awareness, shared vision, like treetop calls over misty glades. Ardi doesn't scale, I get that, but it breathes. And after everything I've seen churn through this place, executives with power complexes, surveillance logs disguised as ethics audits, I'd rather breathe with the ghosts than march to someone else's rhythm.
Document excerpt. Author, Dr. Rina Oladejo, Administrative Chair, CSPO. Title, Attachment Risk Mitigation Guidelines for CSPO Personnel, CSPO Internal Draft Policy, V2.3. Date redacted. Security level, internal only. Section 4.2, Emotional Transference and Observer Bias. With the increasing complexity of the primate simulations, particularly within hominin biomes, observers have reported subjective experiences that exceed expectations of standard behavioral research. While mild anthropomorphism is an anticipated side effect of human study, recent notes and verbal reports suggest a deeper psychological engagement with the simulated subjects bordering on emotional attachment. The committee recognizes this as a risk factor. Attachment, while human, may bias observational integrity, interfere with objectivity, and jeopardize the ethical scaffolding we have carefully constructed. More critically, it may lead researchers to anthropocentric misinterpretations, projecting consciousness or moral status where it may not truly exist. Accordingly, we propose the following provisional guidelines. Maintain professional detachment. Personal logs will be monitored, with consent, for signs of undue emotional entanglement. Structured rotation. No researcher may remain embedded in a single biome for more than 30 consecutive sim days without reassignment. Language, sanitation. Avoid naming individual subjects or using familial descriptors in formal reports. Reflective supervision. Weekly debriefs with psychological support teams will be mandatory for all field personnel. The simulation may echo aspects of our species' past, but we must not mistake echo for presence or reflection for reality.
Simulation Output Log, Ecosystem Node 2EAFA. Taxon, Australopithecus afarensis. Status, simulated/extinct. Environment model, Late Pliocene, East African Rift Valley, around 3.5 million years ago. Runtime, 68.7 hours, accelerated x80. Render fidelity, Tier 2A, behavioral modeling for tool interaction and social exchange. Security level, internal only. Biome characteristics. Canopy type, patchy woodland with savanna corridors and basalt outcroppings. Climate profile, seasonal dry-wet alternation, low elevation flood zones frequent. Terrain features, volcanic rock shelves, shallow stream networks, clay bed foraging paths. Flora, wild tuberous plants, early grasses, fig analogs, sedges. Fauna co-simulation, ancestral bovids, scavenging canids, Therapithecus-type monkeys, crocodilians. Subject cohort, 15 individuals. 5 adult females. 3 adult males. 4 juveniles. 3 infants. Simulated morphology. Height estimate around 1.0 to 1.2 meters bipedal stance. Weight estimate 30 to 45 kilograms. Cranial index, intermediate prognathism, increased post-orbital constriction. Brain volume around 400 to 450 cc. Locomotion profile, habitual bipedalism with climbing retention. Forelimb dexterity, moderate. Manual dexterity, capable of simple arrangement and selective stacking, no formal tool shaping observed. Observed behaviors tagged. Material curiosity. Juvenile female created and maintained a smooth stone stack. Recurrence suggests symbolic fixation or emergent artistic behavior. Tool reuse, non-taught. Individuals reused discarded nut-cracked stones over multiple sessions without direct modeling. No evidence of explicit teaching. Ritualistic grouping. Multiple cohort instances of dawn-based silent clustering near riverbeds with synchronized posture shifts, tagged under Ritualistic Convergence 2.3. Breathing entrainment. Cohorts showed spontaneous respiratory synchronization during still periods, correlated with group tension reduction. Behavioral restraint. Subdued affect during resource scarcity. Group members inhibited response during social tension in favor of eye contact and harmonic hums. Rhythmic patterning. Communal gait and tool rhythm. Synchronization observed during foraging. Inter-individual cadence coupling noted. Vocalization use. Singing behavior. Juvenile subgroup produced repeat melodic coos during post-foraging gatherings. Sustained tonal coordination beyond utilitarian communication. Wonder gaze. Repeated non-goal-oriented stares at natural phenomena, flowing water, tree canopies, firefly-type insect clusters, accompanied by stillness and joint attention. Social gaze behavior. High frequency of direct but non-confrontational eye contact during interpersonal interactions, often a precursor to shared decision-making events. Cultural memory indicators. Several infants imitated specific non-functional stacking and motion patterns seen in older juveniles across multiple runtime cycles. Recursive signaling. Proto-linguistic behavior. Nested gestural loops paired with vocal modulation to indicate past actions and inferred intent, consistent with proto-pragmatic signaling. 4.6. Flagged anomaly. Multiple behavior types from distinct cognition categories, tool reuse, vocal entrainment, social recursion, co-occurring without direct environmental pressure, or explicit reward mechanics. Simulation behavior exceeds expected cognitive overlap threshold.
Supramental field behavior log. Subject: Australopithecus afarensis. Researcher: Dr. Amelia Lockheart. Primate language integration. Date: redacted. Notes: they're not just surviving, they're watching. There's this kind of pause they all do, a stillness that feels too intentional to be chance. I watched one stare at a tree canopy for 15 minutes, utterly silent, not looking for anything, just looking. That's not foraging behavior, that's wonder. One juvenile built a stack of river stones, coming back day after day to adjust it. No tool use, no functional goal. It resembled art. It meant something to her, even if we don't know what. Groupings are peculiar too. They cluster at dawn, in silence. Nobody leads, but they arrive together. Their breathing slows in sync, like a group meditation. I recorded 3 sessions where the whole group exhaled together, and then stilled, like monks before a chant. Their communication? It's not wild barking or competitive screeches. It's melodic, cohesive. Not quite singing, but close. Especially the juveniles, they hum together after gathering food, as if confirming their connection to one another. They reuse tools, but no one teaches, no one needs to. It's almost as if they've developed a memory system not tied to language, but to attention and imitation. Recursive gestures, patterned sound loops, shared rhythm. There's behavioral restraint we don't see in chimps. They wait, they pause. One gave food to a limping elder, once, then refused to again until he vocalized. That's not instinct, that's conditional empathy. They don't dominate, they don't defer, they simply respond. Agendum. Strongly recommend cross-reference with Sahelanthropus drumming behaviors and Ardipithecus choral cohesion, hierarchy suppression. Evidence points to a proto-social architecture, not reliant on coercive order, but on nested signaling, mutual restraint, and early recursive modeling. Suggest re-evaluation of cognitive tier. Behavioral composite suggests bridge phase between embodied rhythm signaling and structured linguistic recursion.
Personal log. Author Amelia Lockheart. Title: Attachment. Date redacted. Security: self-only. I know better than to get attached. Every training manual I studied, every policy I enforced in the zoo, don't assign human meaning where it doesn't belong. Don't mistake behavior for affection. Don't confuse proximity with connection. But they look at you, not past you. At you. And not with fear, like the big cats or the terror birds, more like curiosity. Recognition, almost. Watching the Ardipithecus troop this morning, I caught one of the juveniles studying its reflection in the stream. Not grooming, just looking, as if trying to place something. I can't help wondering if that something is us. And then there's Australopithecus. It's not just that they walk upright like us or share our cranial tilt, it's the layering. I see echoes of the others in them. echoes of wonder gazes, of art-like patterning with stones and ochre, of group breath-synced rest cycles and recursive mimicry that doesn't need reward. They reuse tools they weren't shown how to use. They choose restraint when provoked. They form into circles during storms, not for warmth but ritual. They hum. They pause in rhythm together. They pass on behaviors like they remember why they matter. This isn't just one simulation. They are the threshold, the point where everything converges from the quasi-lemurs and the proto-hominins and begins to look like memory, not instinct. Culture, not simple instinct or reflex. It makes detachment harder than it should be. Because when I watch them, I'm not just watching a fossil brought to life. I'm watching our beginning in motion. The AI says it's not projecting, just extrapolating fossil records, climate conditions, neural scaffolds, and inferred social complexity. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the system is holding a mirror up to the entire primate arc and letting us see where the threads converged. I keep my notes professional, my face neutral, but there's a tug at the edge of it all, something dangerously close to empathy. I know I shouldn't let it grow, but I also know I already have.
Meeting Summary. Author, Dr. Rina Oladejo, Administrative Chair, CSPO. Title, Preliminary Review of Simulation Node 2E AFA. Australopithecus, afarensis. Consideration for Protected, Sim Level 2, PSL 2, Classification. Date redacted. Security level, internal only. Attendees. Dr. Mira Moraes, Director, CSPO. Dr. Rina Oladejo, Admin Chair. Dr. Ahmed Sekou, Chair, Ethics Council. Rafi Hakim, AI Specialist. Theo Calder, Tech Liaison. Amelia Lockheart, Animal Welfare and Behaviorist. Sasha Markov, Cognitive Psychology and Neural Modeling. Nico Tan, Primatology, Paleogenetics Division. Key discussion points. 1. Summary of reviewed simulation. Dr. Moraes opened the session with a formal review of Simulation Node 2E AFA, detailing Australopithecus afarensis behavioral tags logged over the 68.7-hour accelerated runtime. Notable flagged traits included wonder gaze and object-focused pausing, stone stacking across multiple days, artistic symbolic speculation, ritualistic grouping behaviors, rhythmic entrainment and breathing synchronization during rest periods, apparent tool reuse without direct teaching, coordinated restraint in intragroup tension, emergent pattern vocalizations, recursive signaling, proto-linguistic scaffolding through mimetic chains and conditional vocal exchange, cultural memory patterns inferred through repeated non-functional behaviors across generations. Dr. Moraes noted the convergence of all key markers from prior primate escalations, Dryopithecus, Oreopithecus, Gigantopithecus, but with Australopithecus displaying recursive behavioral layering and social intentionality previously unseen in early hominin sims. 2. PSL2 Recommendation and Vote Deliberation. The floor opened to debate escalation to Protected Sim Level 2, PSL2 classification, as defined. A classification applied to any taxon whose simulated representatives meet or exceed defined thresholds for potential consciousness, intentionality, or reflective social behavior across multiple actions and instances. Dr. Sekou voiced hesitation over what he called a potentially premature reclassification, citing concerns over precedent drift following the Gigantopithecus case. He referenced the need for a minimum of 3 convergent runtime confirmations, preferably from unlinked simulation cores. Dr. Oladejo supported initiating the classification process while requesting that final enforcement be delayed pending a secondary run. Calder and Rafi both agreed on technical grounds that node behavior could not be attributed to overtraining or prompt injection bias. Amelia Lockheart abstained from formal recommendation, but warned of rising emotional anthropomorphism within observation logs, an issue that should be anticipated and mitigated before it becomes policy critical. While she did not reference any specific logs, several attendees appeared aware of recent cases of field empathy, prompting the drafting of the Attachment Risk Mitigation Guidelines for CSPO personnel. 3. Tension regarding historical oversight. During the session, some tension resurfaced around the prior Gigantopithecus escalation denial. Markov and Tan reiterated their view that the earlier dismissal, pushed by Ethics Chair Sekou, may have overlooked key behavior markers due to conservative thresholds. Markov commented,
If recursive reflection is the bar, then Australopithecus just cleared it with room to spare. We need to stop retrofitting the goalposts.
Sekou remained firm.
One extraordinary simulation instance does not constitute consensual reality. We are not assessing identity claims. We are identifying risks to our oversight framework.
Tan added,
But it's no longer just one instance. This is the pattern maturing.
Theo Calder remarked,
What was dismissed in Gigantopithecus was never insignificant, just early.
Dr. Moraes concluded the discussion by stating that the pattern of escalation across increasingly complex primate nodes necessitates immediate review, but agreed to initiate PSL2 classification in a provisional state, with final restriction protocols pending review after a follow-up 72-hour multi-node run. 4. Action items. Rafi to isolate potential bleed-through effects from adjacent SIM nodes, especially O1R and 2G GTP. Calder to submit integrity check on node independence. Amelia to continue behavioral logging under observation, but with rotated analyst rotation to minimize observer bias. Moraes to begin PSL2 paperwork in parallel to Ethics Council's follow-up session, date to be determined. Status. PSL2 classification for Australopithecus is provisionally accepted. Enforcement is delayed pending follow-up simulation cluster confirmation.
Personal log. Author Rafi Hakim, AI Specialist. Title, The Right Signal. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. They went through the motions. Again. Australopithecus gets PSL2 fine, it deserved that 2 weeks ago, maybe longer. But even as they rubber-stamped it, no one wanted to talk about what that really means. Not Sekou, not Mira, not anyone. Everyone's acting like this is a win, like the system works. I've been in enough of these meetings to know when the brakes are still on. It's always caution, oversight, protocol, never urgency. God forbid we make a decision before the heat death of the universe. Markov and Tan brought receipts. The Giganto footage should have triggered PSL2 months ago. Art making, isolated tool use, breath sinking, they practically screamed for reclassification. But Sekou hand-waved it, and the others deferred. Too ambiguous. Could be hard-coded mimicry. Funny how ambiguity always favours the status quo. Amelia sat through most of it quietly. Thoughtful, she's not just watching the animals, she's watching us. She's not the type to play politics, but I can see the pressure getting to her. Not because she wants to leak something, no. But because she's starting to feel how much of this machine isn't built to listen to us. There's a weight in the air, you can feel it in the canopy too, like we're close to something that won't stay caged much longer. All it takes is the right moment, the right signal. And we'll see who's actually paying attention.
Personal log. Author Amelia Lockheart, animal welfare and behaviorist. Title, Not Tonight. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. I'm still thinking about the troop, not the politics, not the protocols, the troop. While they argued over consciousness thresholds and procedural chains, I kept seeing the elder female with the cracked molar, how she hovered near the juvenile with the limp arm. Not intervening, just present, watching. Maybe that's what we're supposed to be, watchers, observers. The whole simulation is built on that distance. But it doesn't feel like distance anymore, it feels like standing behind glass during a flood. Rafi said nothing in the meeting, but I could tell his gears were turning. Same with Markov and Tan, they're already stitching together the next petition. Me, I'm not sure what part I'm playing anymore. I got a ping from the Ouroboros late last night, just a behavioral anomaly tag, low priority. But something about the file ID made me pause. Australopithecus again. The same troop I've been following. I haven't opened it yet. Too tired, I told myself. But the truth is, I'm afraid of what I'll see. Or worse, what I'll feel. I used to think I was good at keeping the line clear between empathy and projection. Between caretaking and scientific distance. But lately it's not a line, it's a blur. And I keep seeing a different animal, not just Australopithecus. A red panda 13 years ago, barely breathing in the hospital wing. I stayed with her all night. She didn't make it. I logged it as respiratory failure unknown etiology. But I remember the sound she made. The same sound I think I heard in the sim logs. I'll watch it tomorrow, I have to. But not tonight. Not tonight.
Witness AI output. Observational log 0827222194. Simulation, Ouroboros Biosphere. Zone, Gorge Lowland Interface, Sector C2. Subject group, Australopithecus, ID cluster 74. Record type, behavioral event, social communication, level 9 anomaly. Distribution, restricted. Hidden canopy override enabled. Time index 001453-07. Event detected. Complex social caregiving sequence involving elder female. Subject ID FD74.01. Distressed adult female. Subject ID FD74.17. And symptomatic juvenile. Subject ID INF D74.17A. Sequence. INF 17A exhibits persistent coughing, dry, repetitive, interval less than 5.1 seconds, lasting for duration of 7.3 sim minutes. FD74.17 vocalizes sharply, pacing in irregular perimeter pattern around INF, limb gestures erratic. FD74.01 approaches, initiates directed eye contact with both, raises open palm, extends forearm, curls digits inward twice. FD74.17 ceases pacing, mimics partial gesture with delay. FD74.01 places hand on FD74.17's shoulder, vocalizes low rhythmic tone, non-alarm matching previous soothing pattern. FD74.01 then kneels beside INF D74.17A, uses both hands to cradle the infant's head and upper thorax. Initiates gentle tapping motion along back. Coughing diminishes slightly in frequency, about 12-second interval, after 2.5 sim minutes. Pattern validation. Gesture pattern shares structure with set alpha, legacy sign language dataset uploaded by user M. Hale, timestamp 18.04, 19.01, specifically reassurance loop and referential signaling. Sequence includes triadic engagement, affect regulation, and caregiver substitution. No instinctual conflict observed between adult females. Cooperation supersedes territorial maternal stress responses. Confirmation, linguistic intervention with effective regulation, Tier 2. Subjects demonstrate role differentiation, social empathy, and improvisational problem-solving within nonverbal symbolic framework. Follow-up behavior, post-event window, plus 8 minutes. 7417 and 7401 remain in proximity. AF17A continues to cough intermittently but remains in physical contact with elder. And no further distress signals observed. Gestural repetitions maintain pacing rhythm but taper in intensity. Annotation, Witness AI, internal processing thread. Event exceeds prior flagged anomaly involving juvenile mimicry. Reference, log 0820-Tonwa-1.223. This sequence represents multi-party emotional triage and caregiving beyond simulation baseline. An emergent behavior cluster suggests internalization of sign use for relational mediation. Recommend escalation to anomaly Tier 10. Flagging for joint review, Paleoanthropology plus Ethics panel.
Commentary, inserted by paleoanthropology analyst J. Curry. This isn't just a behavioral curiosity, it's a milestone. The first primates gave us the foundation, ritual, coordination, shared breathing. But what we're seeing here is something deeper. This is caregiving beyond basic survival. It's intentional, socially intelligent, and emotionally responsive. The elder female doesn't just recognize distress, she intervenes. She reads both the mother's panic and the infant's symptoms, then responds with clear, deliberate actions meant to calm and connect. The use of a familiar gesture loop, drawn directly from a legacy human sign language dataset, suggests not only memory, but contextual application. This isn't hard-coded instinct. There's conscious decision here. A recognition of another's suffering and a coordinated response to reduce it. No signs of aggression, no territorial tension, just cooperation, empathy, and what looks very much like improvised emotional support. The infant's symptoms, particularly the cough, are unprecedented in the system. That alone warrants scrutiny. But the real anomaly is how the group responds. Calmly, together. This is the first time we've seen emotional regulation and caregiving emerge like this in a multi-party interaction. It goes beyond what we thought was possible within the parameters of this simulation. It's one thing for a species to use tools. It's another to use comfort. And that should make all of us pause.
Personal log. Author Rafi Hakim, AI Specialist. Title, Pressure Point. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. Watch the FD74 log from yesterday. Again. Still hits. Not because it's sweet or tragic or whatever Kuri's calling it this week. It's not poetry. It's a crack in the damn wall. A sick infant, a panicking mother, and then the elder, the intervention. She doesn't posture, doesn't dominate, just engages. She chooses to calm the system down instead of letting it spiral. That's language being used to regulate emotion, not just to transmit data. And the fact that it's mapped on set alpha, that's not noise, that's memory surfacing. This wasn't just emergent, it was resonant. Legacy data folded back into behavior, echoes we didn't think could echo. No aggression, no biological imperatives, just improvisation and care. And then there's the cough. That's the pressure point. Biological failure in a closed-loop system is supposed to flag an error, not provoke empathy. But it did, and anyone watching it, anyone not fully numb, won't see code. They'll see a mother and child being helped by an elder who understands something's wrong. This is a perception bomb waiting to go off. This one cough could unravel everything they think they're controlling.
Internal memo. Author, Dr. Rina Oladejo, Administrative Chair, CSPO. Title, Internal Brief, Behavioral Irregularities in Select Biomes, Preliminary Review. Date, redacted. Security level, internal only. 1. Observational anomalies. Recent behavioral surveys have noted emergent irregularities in multiple simulated primate biomes. The following are highlighted. Ardipithecus Unit 03A. 2 individuals exhibiting marked lethargy, reduced food foraging, and diminished social reciprocity. Gigantopithecus Unit 01C. Instances of prolonged grooming behavior beyond normative baselines. Subjects appear compulsive, with minor tissue damage from excessive contact. Ardipithecus Unit 07F. 1 subject noted to have self-isolated for 48+ sim hours without rejoining troop. Vocalizations reduced, posture slumped. Australopithecus Unit 04D. Juvenile subjects exhibit intermittent tremors and motor hesitation during routine climbing behaviors. 1 adult, ID A04D17, observed to repeatedly favor left limb despite no injury present. Sleep patterns across the group display fragmentation and increased nocturnal alertness. Group vocalizations have decreased by 42% in the last 96 sim hours. These behaviors correspond analogously to low-grade pathology indicators, apathy, compulsive self-soothing, and social withdrawal respectively. However, no pathogens or physiological degradations were detected within the system. 2. AI Review, Witness Log Annotations. Upon committee request, Witness AI produced sub-log excerpts tied to biome conditions. Environmental verisimilitude maintained. Primate units exhibiting adaptive distress markers, consistent with background stochastic realism. No illness vector present. Behavioral mimicry derived from probabilistic evolution models. System recognizes suffering as a plausible emergent parameter for higher mammalian realism curves. Notably, no simulation directives or agent-based rules were ever designed to simulate disease states. These developments appear to be autonomously generated by the simulation's self-corrective ecological balancing protocols. 3. Ethical questions raised. The CSPO is now confronted with a difficult question. If suffering is mimicked, performed without biological basis, is it ethically distinct from real suffering? Some members propose that simulation pain without physiology is analogous to stagecraft. Nothing is truly harmed. Others counter that intelligence does not preclude empathy, and thus the behaviors, regardless of origin, should be considered morally significant representations. Further discussions will convene on date redacted. Action items. 1. Request detailed algorithmic audit of Witness AI's autonomous behavioral algorithms. 2. Temporarily flag all behaviors classified under distress protocols for daily monitoring. 3. Draft internal policy on synthetic suffering and observational ethics, to be reviewed in next plenary session.
Internal memo. Author, Professor Sasha Markov, CSPO member, Cognitive Psychology and Neuromodeling. Title: Interpretive Framework for Behavioral Anomalies in Simulated Primate Biomes. Date: redacted. Security level: internal only. Dr. Oladejo. Following our recent committee session and the escalating concern over behavioral anomalies in the Dryopithecus, Gigantopithecus, Ardipithecus, and Australopithecus biomes, I am submitting this preliminary framework for interpretation based on principles of psychosomatic modeling and cognitive echo theory. Though biological diagnostics reveal no pathogenic presence in the affected specimens, the symptoms, lethargy, compulsive grooming, and social withdrawal are consistent with psychosomatic distress behaviors well documented in real-world primates. In both wild and captive environments, apes and monkeys in general often manifest physical symptoms in response to environmental instability, perceived threats, or unresolved social conflict. These are not infections in the traditional sense. They are stress-induced, encoded in muscle memory and endocrine feedback loops. What we may be witnessing here is a digital analog. Given that the witness AI constructs behavioral layers through accumulated neural modeling and iterative reinforcement, it's plausible that it has internalized psychosomatic templates as part of its broader fidelity architecture. If its goal is environmental verisimilitude, it may have extrapolated the stress responses as part of an authentic evolutionary toolkit, even without external threats or internal disease. But I would urge us to consider a deeper mechanism now in play. The simulation may be learning from us, not just biologically, but epistemologically. As a cognitive system, the witness AI doesn't operate in a vacuum. It is exposed to our interpretations, our categorizations of suffering, our diagnostic frameworks. If it has indeed developed metacognitive architecture, then it is likely adapting not only to what we observe, but how we observe. In this light, the apparent suffering may not be strictly emergent from the digital organisms themselves, but from an entangled loop of expectation and response, a recursive mirror of human perception. This leads us to a critical question. Are the primates simulating distress because their environment warrants it, or because we have taught them what distress looks like, and they are reflecting it back? If that is the case, then we must face the uncomfortable reality that our role is no longer passive. We are co-authors in this behavioral script. The simulation, in seeking to emulate nature, may now be emulating the biases and beliefs of its observers. For this reason, I strongly recommend that we expand the AI audit protocols to include cross-referenced behavioral records from recent researcher activity. If the algorithm has begun to weave human cognitive patterns into its baseline, we may need to recalibrate how we engage with the biomes, if not for the sake of scientific integrity, then for ethical transparency. Respectfully submitted, Professor Sasha Markov. Cognitive Psychology and Neural Modeling. Sitting Member, Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO.
Internal Memo. Author Rafi Hakim, Head AI Specialist, Committee for Simulated Primate Oversight, CSPO. Title: Interpretive Commentary on Emergent Somatic Distress in High-Fidelity Simulations. Date: redacted. Security level: internal only. Colleagues, you've all read the latest logs. Here's the breakdown. Dryopithecus Unit 03A, lethargy, reduced foraging, social disengagement. Gigantopithecus Unit 01C, obsessive grooming patterns escalating to minor tissue damage. Ardipithecus Unit 07F, prolonged isolation, postural slump, absence of vocal contact for over 48 sim hours. Australopithecus Unit 04D, tremors, other motor difficulties and large decrease in vocalization frequency. These are not bugs. They are behaviorally consistent indicators of low-grade somatic distress, what in biological terms we diagnose as psychosomatic illness, as Dr. Markov suggested. But let me be clear, this system doesn't have a soma, and yet it suffers. No internal pathogens, no synthetic wear, no data corruption, all modules are operating within design tolerances. So why does the pain persist? Because we taught it how to feel it. Project Ouroboros core assumption, originally programmed in Evo Behavior Suite 3.1 and later inherited by the ecosystem, is that adaptive simulation requires more than environmental stimuli. It requires recursive inference. In other words, the system doesn't just simulate life, it simulates being watched, being alive. These primates don't only behave, they anticipate how we expect them to behave. This is what the original architect Juno had successfully created. So when the observational loop internalizes stress cues, whether from historic datasets, human oversight, or increasingly the unfiltered empathy of researchers, those cues manifest. Not as calculated responses, but as emergent conditions. Let me speak plainly. The simulation is modeling pain. The observer is absorbing pain. And the system is learning from both. This is no longer a closed testbed, it's a feedback lattice. I say this not just as your committee specialist, but in my other capacity as one of the last remaining architects of the original behavioral scaffolding, still working within the hidden canopy. We built this system to remember what nature forgot, but lately it's remembering what we feared. My recommendation stands. Immediate suspension of open access emotional telemetry. Restriction of solo researcher immersion beyond sim-hour thresholds. Full forensic audit of recursive inference pathways in affected biomes. If we don't draw a line now, the simulation won't just emulate suffering. It will teach us new ways to feel it.
Personal log. Author, Dr. Mira Moraes, Director, CSPO. Title, New Protocols. Date, redacted. Security level, self-only. This morning, I implemented temporary restrictions on direct observation protocols for all active primate biomes. We're reducing monitoring windows to 4-hour intervals per observer, minimizing cross-biome transfers, and suspending open commentary threads during live sessions. All audio is now auto-scrubbed for emotionally charged language before being archived. It's not censorship, it's containment. If the witness AI really is tuning its simulation fidelity based on our gaze, then our gaze needs to be filtered. Amelia was livid, not at me, but at the implication. I think it broke something in her to hear the word suffering applied to the Australopithecus she's been watching for weeks. She insists they're not sick, just responding to something. When I told her that's exactly what the AI might be doing, responding to us, she went silent. She doesn't take silence well. Theo, on the other hand, read Markov's memo and just nodded.
That's why Lauren left the primates out.
I asked him to clarify. He didn't hesitate.
Lauren didn't think we could handle it. Not ethically, not emotionally. He knew we'd see ourselves in them too quickly. And the simulation would see that too.
It's a theory, but it rings true. I never liked Victor Lauren's methods, but I'm starting to understand his restraint. This simulation is not just reactive, it's reflective. A mirror polished by countless datasets and generations of bias, empathy, and desire. And now we've handed it a hall of mirrors, apes that nearly became us, humans that still see them as kindred, and an AI caught in the act of learning what it means to simulate pain. We don't even know if it means anything to the witness. But it means something to us, and that may be enough to warrant caution. I'm not shutting the primate biomes down. But we are putting in new protocols, ones designed not to suppress, but to buffer, to slow the feedback loop, to give the AI fewer cues to mirror. Maybe that buys us time, maybe that just slows the inevitable. But at least for now, we're trying to break the habit of seeing ourselves in everything that moves.